Here's remnants of it right here. There's a little pile of old nails. Bunch of old nails in the ground up here. Bunch of little bits of hardware. Some wire, all kinds of nails in the middle. After not having ridden this trail in about 18 or 19 years, I decided it was time to ride it again. The last time I rode it was in about 2002, I think, and a group of us went from this end of the trail all the way up to the top of the site of an old fire lookout, and then we went back down the trail and then popped down out a different trail. But on this particular ride that I did solo, I started out right here, rode across this trail, then I stopped right here and then hiked up to the spot where that old fire lookout used to be. So we'll zoom in here, and this is where the trailhead starts, and you can kind of see this faded area. That's where the old fire break is, or actually I shouldn't call it an old fire break, but it was built many years ago, and it started to get overgrown again just a little bit. So we can see the trail kind of follows the top of the ridge for just a little bit, and then it shoots over to the south side. And we'll just kind of follow this. Zooming in and out is necessary so we can still see where the trail goes. It comes back up near the top of the ridge, and then the ridge gains some elevation, and the trail doesn't really change elevation right away. Right through here, it's tough to make out where the trail is, but I can see where it comes out on the other side, so we know that it just sort of disappears into this thicker stand of trees. Then it comes over to the top of the ridge and then shoots back down just a little bit, and then we can pick up the trail again through here. None of this trail was very difficult. It was kind of narrow though. And here we are, we go around another switchback right up to the top of the ridge, and then we actually skirt across the top of the ridge for a little ways, and then we cut back over to the south side of the ridge. And then we're getting close to where I stopped and hiked up to the top. So right here in this vicinity is where I stopped. I stopped back here in the trees because the trail that goes up to the top, you can actually ride to the top, but the trail up there, it totally snuck up on me because I didn't realize how close I was to where that trail is. Anyway, the trail kind of comes in from the right side, and it's sort of backwards. So it would have been a really sharp turn to get my bike turned around and ride up that. And because the trail was real narrow, it was real loose and dry and dusty and everything, it would have been too much work to try to turn my bike around. So I thought, I'll just park it here and hike up to the top. So let's go ahead and cut to the helmet cam footage of where I rode from the trailhead up to this point. areas like this, a lot of the trees are fairly close to the sides of the trail, so you just have to take your time and watch out and make sure you don't hit your handlebars on one of those trees next to the trail. Otherwise it's going to shoot you off the bank, especially like that right there, that big dead tree that had fallen down. And here I am approaching the very first switchbacks, which sort of goes over to the right, climbs up towards the top of the ridge, and then goes back to the left just a little bit. And then we just sort of ride fairly close to the top of the ridge, and then we shoot back over towards the south side of the ridge here. In about another 200-300 feet or so, I kind of stop to take in the view and look at the valley down below. I've had this 2002 DR-Z400S since 2006, and right after I bought it, I geared it to match the equivalent of the dirt-only DR-Z, which is a 14-tooth front sprocket and a 47-tooth rear sprocket. That sprocket combination works really good for trail riding, and most of the way through here I'm just sticking in first gear because I haven't ridden in the trail in so long, plus the fact that I'm riding solo. I just don't want to risk having any issues and shooting off the trail or whatever. But as you can see here, the trail does get fairly narrow, and just a little ways back behind me there was a pretty steep drop off on the downhill side. Summit is right up that little trail. That's a pretty sharp turn that kind of snuck up on me. So I'll leave my bike there and just hike up. It's not very far. Plus, this is pretty rocky too. Well, maybe it's a little bit further than I thought. Tire on my DR-Z. The rear tire is pretty much shot. So it would make this climb a little bit of a challenge. Many years ago, there used to be a fire lookout up here. I don't know for sure when it got decommissioned. But a lot of the taller peaks around Washington had fire lookouts. all over the US, as a matter of fact. And over the years, they just didn't need them anymore. And a bunch of them got decommissioned, some of them got moved, some of them got burned to the ground. Here's remnants of it right here. This one obviously had a rock foundation. There's a corner stake. You can see the chunks of concrete. There's another corner anchor. Here's a roof anchor. A lot of times they were tied down, not just at the corners, but then the roof had anchors in it too, anchor cables. There's a little pile of old nails. Bunch of old nails in the ground up here. Every lookout I've ever come across, the door is always in the front right corner. Bunch of little bits of hardware. Some wire, all kinds of nails in the middle. Another corner anchor. And somewhere I saw, well, that was something right there, embedded in the rock. Okay, that was just a pile of nails. I thought it was a corner anchor I was going back to look for. I've only been up to the top of this peak. Oh, I think this is probably my 5th time. Once was part of a dual sport event back in, I believe, 1996 or 97. And then a couple of years later, I came up here over Columbus Day weekend. I used to work for a school district, and I worked the same schedule as students, so every student holiday or teacher in service day, I didn't have to work. So that was a 4-day weekend for students, so I had a 4-day weekend. One of those days, or maybe both of them, were a teacher in service day. During the time I worked for a school district, I would actually rearrange my days. Instead of having Thursday, Friday off, I would work Thursday and get a whole bunch of work done while students weren't in school. Because I was a computer tech guy, so having access to computer labs and stuff was really nice when school was out. So I'd work Friday and take Monday off, and I did that for a couple years in a row while I was still a school year only employee. And then I can't remember if that was 2001 or 2002, but I'll find some photos of that. That was back before I started doing digital photography. Then it turned out to be a crappy day for riding. We actually came up to the top here and it went back down and then continued out. There's a trail junction we'll go through down here. But coming up here, we came in from the right, which is how I'm going to go down. And there was a steep section. It was like a bobsled track because it had snowed several days prior. And then there was a group of about 8 of us. And then also some of the switchbacks were just a solid sheet of ice. I don't know how any of us kept from crashing on that.